This is a warning. Do not be alarmed. This is a public service announcement. The sky has turned purple. There are people running everywhere. Trying to keep a straight face here. They're trying to run from our destruction. They know we didn't even care. But you know, I was dreaming when I wrote this, so forgive me if I go too fast. Alright, this is the video I've been wanting to make for a long time, and I want to get it right. There's so much I just want to talk about in this video. It's a culmination of a lot of things. Basically, 30 seconds already, right? Okay. We're going to talk about 1999, the album. Not the year, the album. And we're going to talk about it in a series of 3 videos. This is probably almost as detailed as my Parade to Love Sexy series a few years back. The first video, basically, now I want you all to be patient with this because I've got so many things to say, but I'm not going to be able to get them all out in the first video, basically. This first video, it was all about, first of all, we examined the context behind 1999, why it was such a big hit, and why it was so different from all of Prince's earlier albums. And then we're going to talk about how the songs came into being and how they ended up on the album. And basically, to make this a little less boring and talky, I'm going to show you some images of stuff first of all, when we discuss the songs in the Genesis, I mainly quote from 2 big books here rather than the Prince Vault. This one, which is Per Nilsson's DMSR, The First Decade, absolutely essential book. It talks about it in a chapter, and then also on the back it's got the studio dates and sessions. And then of course we've got Matt Fawn's, which is a really good discussion on the music and how it all came together. Now, why is 1999 such an important album, you ask? Well, to me, I mean, we talked about Dirty Mind, Controversy, The Time, What Time Is It? All of those albums are great albums. I mean, they're all got great songs on them. They're all hilarious. They're funny. But 1999 is really, in a lot of ways, a culmination album in sort of, you know, many different respects. First of all, we're going to look at some of the reasons why 1999 would be such a massive breakthrough for Prince in the revolution, as you could say. I mean, first of all, this cover art, I mean, wow, basically. Of course, you know, basically how we just basically came into this. This really sums up the 2 sides of where Prince was in 1982. We still got the lust-filled satyr, the carnal lizard of 1980-81, but we've also got this more mature, you know, big bad band leader, basically, that came into being. Now, one of the main reasons why I think this album is so different, first of all, before I do tell you why, I want to state to you that Sign of the Times is my favourite Prince album. That will never change for obvious reasons. But my second favourite, and clearly better than every other album I've talked about so far, is 1999, because this album is just revelation. I mean, it was just so far ahead of its time, you know, and I think it's just amazing, you know. I mean, there are many Prince fans I know, a lot of them I respect. One of my favourite is Moonbeam. He absolutely adores this album. I mean, he's named himself after one of the most famous outtakes from 1999, Moonbeam Levels, which only saw release in 2016, but, you know, bootleggers had the song for ages. It basically sounds a lot like the song Free. Okay, but the reason is because, first of all, when you put on 1999 and you compare it to, say, Controversy or Dirty Mind, the whole music just sounds much more sonically developed. It's more mature sounding, it's deeper, there's more music, actual like instruments and things in it. Prince has stopped singing in his falsetto, he's singing more in a sort of deeper natural voice. And even though 1999 was released in October 1982, only 1 year after Controversy, sonically and material wise, to me they sound like they're albums that were released 5 years apart. I mean, Controversy is a great album, don't get me wrong. I mean, Dirty Mind's amazing, but 1999 just eclipses the pair of them on so many levels. It's just like, I mean, Controversy was sung by an adolescent and Dirty Mind almost by an oversexed child. But 1999 is the music of a mature artist, basically. It's fully developed, you know, there's no more sort of, you know, squeaky or cheap organ sounds. There's no more rawness or punkiness. Everything on 1999 has been polished smooth like a perfect diamond, basically. There's a mature, full and deep sound coming through on this album. Now, one thing we're going to talk about in this first video is why this album is so different. And I think there were 3 major things that saw the big change and that big sonic leap from Controversy up to 1999. Okay, and before we go any further, if you haven't watched my videos about Controversy and What Time Is It, I recommend you watch them. And even my little overview video where I show you my purple vinyls, because that's important. You're probably again wondering, I mean, I've been doing an average of video a week. This is only 3 or 4 days after the Time video. I'm doing this one because I really just want to get it out. I really want to get this video moving because I know it's going to be a big one. I mean, the Time hasn't kind of taken off like I expected it to. I mean, it's definitely had its passionate followers who've loved the singing and dancing. I'm sorry to disappoint you all. There's not going to be much more singing or clowning around this video. This is more sort of serious, passionate fan worship here. because this stuff is just beyond magnificent, basically. So the first theme I really think is music in 1982. If you look at the 80s in general, I mean, the 80s was full. The start of the 80s really in a lot of ways was a continuation of the 70s. Black music did not really move beyond the sort of boogie down disco funk of the 70s. I mean, early 1980s acts like, one that comes to mind, Lakeside, they still sounded very 70s. They still had the big afros and the flares and the glimmer. Even Kool and the Gang, that song Get Down on It? They're wearing red disco suits with glimmer flares. It's mid 1982 and they're still dressed up like the 70s. Like Boney M, Zap, all those groups, they still had big massive afros and, glammed up hairdos and everything. They still looked like, as George, I can't remember, someone said, we wanted to make real music and not look like guys kicking around in a spaceship. The spacesuit look was still there. Even the Commodores were still singing that 70s boogie type music. And then on the other side of the fence, the early 80s, for white people, they really went off disco music in 79 and rhythmic black music. It was all basically part of baiting gays and black people. And they went into this horrible fucking soft rock, AOR country rock phase. Rubbish like Juice Newton, the Oak Ridge Boys, that Get Up, Boom, Boom, Elvira song. Dolly Parton, I don't mind who I mean, but a lot of country pop was popular. A lot of really watered down sugary stuff like Air Supply, I'm all out of love and making love out of nothing at all. And a lot of people who had big perms, the males had big perms, they were still wearing flares, it was still like the 1970s. And then you just had this shitty punk music and post-punk stuff like, Big Audio, Dynamite and Rush. There was just a lot of crap on the charts in 1980-81. They really are, for me, some of the worst years for music. And then you got the absolutely horrible Drake stuff like Christopher Cross and Eddie Rabbit. You guys probably don't even remember who Eddie Rabbit was, but you remember that song like, I love a rainy night, dun, 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 dun. That's the type of music we were listening into. And Prince's Dirty Mind controversy in the time, they had to compete with this garbage, basically. But 82, things started to really change. That was, even though I'd been around for a few years, all the British New Wave music came through. Stuff like Human League, Don't You Want Me Baby, the Eurythmics had Love Is a Stranger. All this more sonic music came in, this dancey music. The Thompsons had their first hit, Love on Your Side. It just became a lot, In the Name of Love, that's it. All the music just became more dancey and funky in 82. Even the British stuff like, Madness, Our House, and, even some of the post-punk acts, being like the Jam, for instance, they were becoming more melodic and rhythmic. I mean, it's like being black was fashionable again. The flares, the perms, the afros, all the 70s shit, all the big, long, shaggy, sort of like Grizzly Adams type beards disappeared, and all these guys with like wearing sharp drainpipe pants, 80s fashions. Like, I mean, probably the big sensation of 81, 82 was Duran Duran. They really introduced that sort of 80s pretty boy look. And of course Prince was inspired by it, and all this new wave and all this new romantic stuff came through, and all of a sudden the 80s just took off. 82 was just the year of MTV, and all these, bright colours, all this pizzazz, all this 80s stuff just took over from all this 70s bearded country rock, Oak Brown, yeehaw everybody, let's shoot 'em up type music of 1981 just went psh, overnight. 1982, no one even knew who the fuck Christopher Cross was anymore. So that's what happened. So this was a perfect context for Prince to come through. Now, it wasn't like straight away 1982, Prince released 1999 and bang, he's a huge star. Most of what we're talking about here did not pay off for Prince until well into 1983. And that's going to be in the third 1999 video. Initially, I can tell you this now, 1999, the first single of the project, coupled with How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore, was released on the 27th of September 1982. Initially, it only got up to number 44 on the US Pop 100 and about number 4 on the Black chart. That's better than Controversy and Uptown, but it's still nowhere near on the scale of the song Call by the Time, or even I Want to Be Your Lover got all the way up to number 11, remember. So it still was not the breakthrough. It was better. He still was building momentum, but he was still basically relegated to the Black chart ghetto. I mean, most people say, no, you're wrong, Adult Cream. 1999 got to number 12 on the charts. Yes, it did. In August 1983, after Little Red Corvette and Delirious had been top 10 hits. And also, I mean, I think Nasty Girl by Vanity Six was also out and about too. So, yeah, initially, there wasn't much love for this. I mean, it took until January of 1983 for the album to go gold. Only went platinum in July of 1983. And even then, I mean, it didn't go double or triple or quadruple platinum until well after Purple Rain. In fact, it went quadruple platinum around 2000, basically. So initially, this album was not that big. Probably the other big thing too, but still 1982, change was in the air. The other big thing that really brought this album forward into the new age was basically the sound of it. If you listen to Controversy, you're hearing a lot of falsetto, you're hearing a lot of squeaky organs and crappy organs like, the noises on Ronnie Talk to Russia. I mean, he's still singing in that heavy falsetto. I mean, falsetto's fine, but Prince had been doing it for 4 albums and it was getting lame. The only song where he drops down to his natural growl is Jack You Off, and he does a bit of normal singing too in the song Controversy, and Sexuality does the talk and monologue along with Do Me Baby. But the sound, like, he's got more Lynn drums running through it, the guitars are thicker and stronger, the drumming is much more intense, his vocals are much more mature. Like, you hear him singing in 1999, it starts off going, the sky was all purple, there were people running everywhere. And also to accent this maturity and sound, as Prince has stopped wearing, you know, bikini briefs and flasher macs, and he stopped dressing like a little punk and he started dressing like a grown-ass man. I mean, he's got the big purple coat on, he's got his hair permed up, he's got the big flouncy shirts that are coming into fashion. Prince is starting to dress in full clothes, and he's really starting to lean heavily towards the colour purple, which gives the whole thing a bit more gravitas. So it's really looking different. And probably the third thing that really was the catalyst for the change was that by 1982, Prince had moved beyond just promoting his own career. He was managing the time. He'd just got Vanity 6 together. He had brought in Jill Jones, Sue Ann Carwell, and all these other people. He was making all these acts. He really was starting this big music empire. You know what I mean? It was a stage now where Prince was waking up, writing a song, and then deciding, who am I going to give it to? Am I going to give it to Vanity 6? Am I going to give it to The Time? Someone else? I might give it to a pop artist. Like, I mean, there was a song called As Is by some artist called Ren Woods. More importantly, he gave the synth loop from Stand Back to Stevie Nicks, so he was actually starting to watch a lot of white rock music. I mean, that's what inspired Little Red Corvette. Apparently, Prince asked Des one day and said, why is it that these white boys keep having hits, when he was commenting about Bruce Springsteen? He said, well, they write songs that appeal to the working class, you know, man in his truck type element, and they cross over. Because Prince had been listening to Bob Seger and Springsteen and wondering why their songs were so great. I mean, they had no appeal on black people, but Prince at this stage, he changed his vision. Until 1981, I think he only really cared about entertaining his black audience and the sort of like the trendsetters, like, you know, all the tasteful critic types. In 1982, he realised if he really wanted to cross over and become the big macaroni, he needed to grab that white demographic, because that big white demographic spent a lot of money on records. And anything with rock and cars in it would sell. And that's what Prince had in mind when he wrote Little Red Corvette. He knew that this song, white people hopefully would pick it up and they would just get totally into it. So there you are, there's your thing. Now I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to, next segment I'm going to play some songs from this era. And then I'm briefly going to talk about how every song on 1999 came together. Okay. Okay. Let's say hello to my little music synthesizer I'm going to play some songs. Okay, we're going to start right at the beginning of 1982 with the earliest songs on this album. Because another thing too that separates this album from all the others was that Controversy, Dirty Mind, everything before it was pretty much recorded in one set of sessions over a few weeks, a month at most. Okay, For You wasn't. Most of that time they was spent basically polishing synth parts, and, you know, and even what time is it? That was 2 sessions, but really it was just the 2 sessions. But in 1999, what you're going to find, there was 4 major periods of basically music writing, and they show. So I'm going to start with some songs. Now, not all these songs I play are on the album. Some of these are outtakes, and some of these ended up with other artists. But these are some of the songs Prince was recording just after the end of basically Controversy. This is late 1981. This is the type of stuff he's playing. Now, you guys probably all know this song. It was B-side to Let's Pretend We're Married, but that's the 1983 recording. This is what it sounded like in December of 1981. He's still singing in that falsetto, as you can hear. See, sonically it's advanced a wee bit beyond Controversy, but it's still very, very archaic, basically. Now this is Tick Tick Bang from the same era. You probably recognise this from 1990. This is what it sounded like originally. These very frenetic Controversy, Dirty Mind style coda. Some very frantic drumming by Prince. Yeah. With obviously some sort of really synthesizers rattling away in the background. It's basically about masturbating. See, again, we've still got that falsetto. Even though this sounds very primitive next to 99, it still to me sounds a lot like something which is pretty much, you know, post-Controversy, not quite 1999. Now we move into January 1982, and this song here dates from January 1982. You all know it, it's actually off 1999. This is one of the dirtiest songs on the album. See, he's singing in a deeper voice, but there's still a bit of falsetto. There's a lot of doomy baby styles. You've got the porno piano still playing. There's no Lynn drums. Scream. But he has moved into his growl. Of course, another voice which isn't quite as song, it's quite as dirty, but dates from the same era. January 82. Now we have got a Lynn drum here. This to me sounds more advanced than International Lover. Would you agree? That's January 82. Now we're going to move to about March or February of that year. Okay, so I'll just find. Okay, this is an outtake for the time. This is called Dance to the Beat. Prince is doing the music, but it's Morris on the vocals. You've got the horny toad coda going here. And now still in the middle of 1982. This is a strange way of saying I love you. This was actually an outtake for Vanity 6. Still sounds tinny and for a feature, but apparently it dates from about March of 82. So we're still very archaic with that song. Yep. Okay, now we're going to get to. This is around the same time, March. Turn it up. See, this is clearly a real true transition between Controversy and 1999. You've got the synth claps, you've got the Lyns, but then you've still got the screeching falsetto and the raw sound. Okay, so now we're going to move into April, which is really when the full 1999 sound was coming. This is, of course, DMSR, which is from April 82. Full mature voice, yeah. Okay, so we move to Delirious. This is May of 82. Delirious. Of course, we're going to go back a month to this famous song. Again, we've got the synthesizers. I mean, Prince was really, April, May of 82, he was really getting into the Lynn drum playing. Now, if this thing taking too long, we're just going to skip straight ahead to what Prince was doing in May, basically. One song that dates from May is Delirious. That's from the middle of May, of course. And also, which dates from that period is incredibly quite late. I thought it was earlier, was The Second Coming. Okay. And then we finally move to the last period, which is July and August of 1982. That includes such songs, of course. You know this one. But what I want to play is I want to play you some of the three major uptakes, which everyone loves. This is one of my favourite songs. That's called Lost You Always, and that is an amazing song. Also in the same period as, people say this is from 1978, it's actually from the middle of 82. You can just tell by the synth this is not 78. And he's singing it in falsetto. Wouldn't You Love to Love Me? Yep. Another one which I really think you guys will love, this is from middle 82. Extra Lovable, yep, not the crappy 2011 version. And my absolute favourite song from this era, which didn't make it onto any album. You guys probably all know this is an amazing song. See, this is the full 1999 sound coming through. I mean, the perfect vocals, the synths, the Lynn, and you can hear a bass trickling away in the background here. And it goes on for 10.5 minutes. It's amazing. So there's your music. Okay, now the final part of this epic. We're going to talk about the historical order of the songs as they appear in this project. Like I said, I played a lot of songs that never made it onto the chart. But of the songs you see on the album, the very oldest song on it is International Lover. This was actually originally given to What Time Is It, which is why I did that video first. It was taped sometime in the first 2 weeks of 1982. Now bear in mind too, Prince was on the Controversy tour in most of January, February and early March of 1982. The tour did not finish until that time. In January, Prince went to his home studio, which is amazing because, as you know, Minneapolis was covered in snow in January, and he taped basically that song, and he also taped All the Critics Love You in New York. We know that song's very old because there are stories Prince was playing it in the later part of the Controversy tour, but they only said some parts of it done. All the overdubs, you know, all the noises in the background, like in the part where he's going, yes, he's definitely masturbating. That was overdubbed in July of 1982. The early version is just basically the singing part going, you know, take a picture. They don't judge you because, oh, the critics love you in New York. Make love to a purple floor. And it's actually very mature for the period when you think about it. I mean, he's talking about purple. There's a lot of Lynn running through it. You know, so it's a great song, basically. I mean, like I said, this will be the boring scientific video. We'll get into discussing how much I love all the songs in the next one. Okay, then we take a big jump. We finish through the Controversy. We jump up to the end of March 1982. And Prince has gone to Sunset Sound in Los Angeles, which is again, and basically most of the rest of the music was done at Sunset right through to the completion in August. In March, Prince taped in this order, Let's Pretend We're Married. Well, that'd be right, that's quite an early sounding song. It has a lot of sort of controversy themes. Also has that famous line, I sincerely want to the taste out of your mouth. Amazingly, Do Yourself a Favour, which wasn't an album song, but still it's a great song. It's the one where he's doing the Morris Day pimp voice, because at the time he was also taping a lot of What Time Is It and also Vanity 6. Raspberry Beret was first taped at this period, which I find very interesting. Then we skip into early April and we get back to 1999 songs. DMSR was taped at that time, Dance, Music, Sex, Romance, which became a live favourite, and that's another wonderful song. Wouldn't You Love to Love Me, which I played in the musical supplement. Incredibly, at this time, Free was taped. This was actually taped before Moonbeam Levels. Free, which has the very nice singing, you know, it's a deep singing song. And again, you've got the gospel singing, and it's not surprising the next song he taped after Free was How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore, which is again Prince at the piano doing that type of gospel singing. And again, that's just godlike. How come you don't call me anymore? Ooh, baby, I leave your number on the wall. Ow, sometimes I wonder if I'm gone. You know, I just love it. You know, it's just the breakdown, and I just love that line. It's just one lousy dime, baby. You know, so that was taped at the same time. Also in April, basically, Something in the Water Does Not Compute. There's an earlier version where there's sort of like a watery synth playing on it, you know. And of course, moving into May now, he tapes the song Automatic, and again, that's another blinder of a bloomin' song. A lot of these sort of middle period songs too were the longer cuts on 1999. Prince was definitely experimenting more with long jams. I mean, Prince was already a master of the long song by this stage. I mean, he'd done several long cuts with the time and What Time Is. I mean, this was around the same time, basically, and almost on the same day, Prince actually cut the song The Walk for the Time. By this time, he'd finished the Vanity 6 songs, although he was doing some later cuts like Vibrator and Money Don't Grow on Trees later in the year. Okay, and also in May, another classic was taped, that was Delirious. And Delirious, as you know, that's just a wonderful song. Again, Free, Delirious, all those overdubs, they were added in later in July. The original Delirious is actually quite sparse. The rockabilly organ's not really there. It's mainly just Prince doing the vocals. Okay, then June and sort of like later May into June, Prince took a break, you know, and then early July, Prince is back at Sunset Sound, and basically he tapes the meat of the album, all the big songs. He tapes Moonbeam Levels, which is taped first. That's taped around 10th of July. As you know, Moonbeam Levels, most people say, oh, Free replaced Moonbeam Levels, but in fact, Moonbeam Levels was taped later, and you can tell because to me it sounds like a more fully developed song than Free. Lady Cab Driver, I mean, I actually was quite shocked. I thought that would be really early because I thought of the caption of, it's basically he's fucking her in the end of the song, pretty much, part of my language. But I thought the reference to Taxi Cabs and Annie Christian from Controversy. And of course, the last two songs taped for the project, why is no one even surprised? Little Red Corvette and 1999, because apparently Prince, sometime in early July 82, actually went to a Bruce Springsteen and a Bob Seger concert and heard these songs. Was like, why do people like this stuff, you know? And then Lisa said, Prince, why don't you write a song like this? And Dare said, I'll help you, I'll do some rock chords, you know. So Prince sat in Lisa's Edsel and wrote Little Red Corvette apparently there in one take. And even though it was a rock song, it was a car song, It still had the Prince touches, you know. She had a pocket full of Trojans, some of them used. If you don't know what a Trojan is, look it up, basically. Yeah, it's a funny line. And then finally, I mean, around this time, late July of 82, Prince apparently took the whole album to Warner's, and Warner said, this is really good, this could be a really cohesive set, but you just need one last song just to tie the whole lot together. And that's the thing, when you put on 1999 for the first time and you look at the track list, you know, the first thing you see, what is the first cut on the album? 1999, people go, oh, well, Prince probably taped that first. No, he taped it last. Prince went out and wrote 1999. He took that whole theme of the world ending and basically captured lightning in a bottle. 1999, as you know, became probably the first, you know, really truly epic Prince song. And yeah, so that tied the album together, because even before then, I mean, the Warners had heard a potential hit single in Little Red Corvette like that, and they could also see that Delirious might just be poppy and cheesy enough to cross right over too. So 1999 came out, and then Prince spent a period in early August, 10th to the 14th, in the studios. Basically, what he did was he sat down with Bernie Grundman, Peggy McCreary, who had worked with him on the on the whole Purple. I mean, on the What Time Is It sessions. Susan Rogers, not yet. She would not come in until halfway through 1983, if we follow what Dwayne Tootle's been saying, and I have a habit to believe him. And basically, the whole thing was mixed. On August 14th, 1982, the album was wrapped and ready to go. At this time, this is when all these overdubs were added. This is when some songs were polished. I mean, you probably put some more organs on some songs. He probably polished up some of the vocals. And it was probably at this time too, he probably cut some songs off the album, like Do Yourself a Favor, Turn It Up, No Cool You, and took Moonbeam Levels off and put Free On, much to the chagrin of many fans who absolutely adore the song Moonbeam Levels. And then maybe Prince took it off because already 1999 was kind of like, you know, the end of the world apocalypse song, and he didn't really want to freak people out too much. After all, Prince, I think, clearly had in his mind he wanted this album to go absolutely titanium, pretty much. He knew this had to be the one that made it. I mean, Controversy and Dirty Mind were still baby steps in a lot of ways. So there you are. So, and then, of course, you know, apparently it took a bit of convincing to Warner's to actually let him do the whole sort of the two-album set. Originally they thought, you know, Prince wasn't really a big enough draw to have two albums. I mean, the record market was still in a recession. I mean, Thriller would not come out till December of 82, and even then, 82, like I said, things were changing, but it was still very much, you know, black artists were in the minority. Prince was still in the black music group run by Mary Lou Badu, who, despite the name, was a white woman with a big sort of feathered hairdo. Because normally you hear names like Badu and you think Haitian, you know, New Orleans Creole, but no, yep, okay. And basically, yeah, so he had to convince them, but they said yes, of course, you know, in some of the lesser markets like Britain and New Zealand. Then they re-released it as a 7-song album. I'll talk about that in the promotional and the singles video later on, you know, which there was a single album, but basically the two-album set came out, and it was all about, as you can see, October 27th, 1982, the whole album came out, basically. And there you are. You know, I mean, again, I really need to look up and find who did that. I think Prince actually did that cover art. And as you can see, it's pretty damn disgusting, actually. I mean, what on earth is that the one supposed to be in? No, I don't want to translate what possibly the Prince part's supposed to mean, basically. So there you are. And so there you go. So that's basically the genesis of the 1999 album. Just finally, we talk about some B-sides. Horny Toad was actually, again, like most Prince B-sides, they actually date after the main album. Horny Toad dates from September of 1982, so just before he went on the big tour. The latest song, this might really shock you, Irresistible Bitch. I played you the earlier version from early 81, but the version you hear as a B-side to Let's Premium Mag was actually taped as late as September 1983. To give you an idea of how late that is, that's actually well after he'd written most of Purple Rain, and even some of the earliest songs of Around the World in the Day had been done by that stage. You know, so that's very late. Also, as you know, that 12-inch mix of Little Red Corvette dates from January or February of 1983. So really outside the scope of this, but there you are. There's my introduction to the genesis of 1999. The next video is going to be more fun. We're going to do some singing. We're going to spin some songs. We're going to talk some shit, basically, and I'm going to show you some more vinyl. So hope you enjoyed this. Really welcome any feedback and comments about this album. I mean, I just consider it too important just to be silly about it. And yeah, keep it watching.